Hi, I'm Scott Simi. I'm the editor-in-chief of DroneDJ.com, and the last couple of videos that we posted are of the Mini 2. The first video, which we'll link to below, or you can just look since you're on YouTube already, was basically about the features of the drone and overall impressions. The second video was a race between the Mini 2 and the original Mavic Mini. Now, of course, we knew the Mini 2 was likely to smoke the Mavic Mini just based on the specs alone, but we thought it'd be fun to actually see it in person. So if you haven't seen that video, do check it out. It's kind of fun, especially when they both cross the finish line. However, those first two videos are in 1080p, and that's because our good pal Dave Cooper, who was shooting those videos for us, he was shooting in 1080p, and we really should have shot in 4K because obviously a lot of you are interested in seeing how the Mini 2 performs in 4K, especially since the original Mavic Mini was, of course, 2.7K. So the purpose of this video is really to look at a compilation of some of the footage that I've gathered in the couple of weeks or so that I've had the Mini 2 in my possession. Unfortunately, I have to send it back to DJI before long. However, I think they give you a pretty good idea in terms of looking for the detail that the camera can capture, looking at the color accuracy, looking at its dynamic range, how it handles that whole spectrum in between the blackest of blacks and the whitest of whites. And you'll see too that it has its challenges from time to time where some of the highlights were blown out. Now, I was shooting in auto exposure mode with no filters on the Mini 2. I wanted to kind of replicate the experience that most people are likely to have when they take it right out of the box. So there's a good argument there for putting on a neutral density or a polarizer, and also adjusting your manual settings. Finally, we took a look at some night shots, or at least some low light conditions. It was within a half an hour of the sun going down, so it's getting a little dark. You'll see a little bit of noise, but really, when you consider this drone is sub $500, and of course, sub 250 grams, I think it's pretty impressive. Have a look. So, welcome to Toronto. We're just going to look at a variety of shots under a variety of lighting conditions that I've collected since the Mini 2 arrived. This one I'm throwing in, to be honest, just because I think it's a pretty cool shot. This is a construction area not far from my home, and as you can see, there's a giant hole that they're working on for some reason, but just really cool from an aerial perspective. When it comes to showing detail and the kind of detail that 4K can provide, there's really nothing that beats trees in my mind, and particularly this kind of wispy, willowy type of tree. As you'll see in a moment, once it catches some wind, there we go, we've got this swaying motion, but a lot of detail going on in this shot. So I was curious to see how the Mini 2 would capture this, and I felt, certainly for the price range, that it did really an awesome job. And here we are using one of the quick shots. I just, again, kind of like this shot, but also some nice detail and some nice contrast between lights and darks in this shot. And continuing on the tree theme, we've got this in a little park about a block from my house. And sadly, all those leaves are gone now, and the sky is gray. But you can see again the kind of detail and, to me, the color accuracy that the Mini 2 was capable of reproducing. Straight up from a neighbor's backyard, and again, you can see a lot of detail and some nice contrast between lights and darks, although the lights are a bit blown out on the right. Here we've got some very sharp contrast between the lightest and the darkest parts of the image. And I think the Mini 2 handled this quite well. I should also mention that this was really a particularly windy day. Even though the branches aren't showing it, just a little bit off the cliff face. It was really pretty windy. I didn't have my anemometer with me. There, you can see the wind a little more now. I didn't have my anemometer with me, but I'm guessing it was pretty close to 24 miles per hour. But the Mini 2 handled it very, very well. Check out the horizon. It's a bit off, and we'll revisit that in a moment. But overall, this was a shot I felt, again, had a lot of detail, a lot of contrast to deal with, and I thought the Mini performed really admirably well. Now here you can see we're getting kind of some pulsing. I was in auto exposure here, and we had a lot of light off the water and between the branches, so the lens flare and the exposure adjustment is to be expected. But this wasn't. A dog who came to check out the Mini 2 as it landed. Now, there's a lot going on here. First of all, you can see the gimbal is a little bit off, and that was rectified fairly quickly with a gimbal adjustment. You can see the smokestack though, because of the nature of this wide angle lens, there's a bit of distortion there. The one coming in on the left appears to be bent or leaning to the left. Trust me, it is straight up and down. And there's a little bit of noise, but you know what? Not that much considering the amount of light that was available. This was a fun shot running through a construction site, and again you can see a little bit hot on the highlights, blown out a bit. Again, this was in auto exposure, but that was deliberate. We wanted to leave the drone in settings that we figured most people would probably be using straight out of the box. But you know what? I'm not going to complain too much about that. The rest of the shot has tremendous detail, great color accuracy, and it looks pretty darn good considering the price of this machine. Oh, don't go flying in construction sites. You might get in trouble. And here we're coming down. Hey, who's that guy on the bench? This was getting just a little bit after sunset, within the half-hour limit. And it was also very, very cold out. So I decided to bring the drone down and put it in auto landing mode. It landed actually within, I would say, 2 feet of where it took off, and it was really quite windy out. So I'm gonna say that's a big, 8.9 out of 10. But really, I was quite impressed as it came down and touched down safely. And one final one here, just because I love the look of this shot as it comes down. And that was one of the last nice days that we're gonna have, I think. It's now fall, cold and wet. Certainly we'll still get out flying, and we're gonna try and get as much more flying with the Mini 2 as we can before winter takes its grip. And there we go, back down to earth. Boom. And that, as they say, is a wrap. Hope you enjoyed those clips of the Mini 2, all filmed in 4K. Of course, the Mavic Mini was 2.7, the Mini 2 is 4K, and that's why we did this video. If you have not subscribed and enabled notifications, please do. We're going to be pumping out a lot of videos in the months to come, and we hope you enjoyed this one. I'm Scott Simi, Editor-in-Chief of DroneDJ, and we'll see you soon.